Okay, we're kind of at the end of the course, and we're kind of going backwards with our families with that Father's book. We're going to the first part of the book now, chapter 1. I think it's this tends to work better for me to get your attention with why do we need fathers at the very beginning of looking at the book, and now kind of going with what are the problems that we experience now when we don't have fathers. So look at the first chapter of the book. Again, this book is a little harder to get into than your think book was. See if you can actively read. I've got some questions here and some facts here that might help you kind of dig into it. Write in your book, take notes, underline and highlight so that you can read and learn from the book, get some information. You're not going to get this kind of content in any other kind of book that you take in college and anywhere in America today, because fatherlessness is a problem that no one in the social sciences will address. It's politically incorrect, and people don't want to talk about this. And so I want to talk about it because I think it's a real problem in America. And so I want you to have access to this and have an exposure to it. So here's some important facts that are in that first chapter. And I've got the page numbers here. And so as a professional after college, when you get into whatever profession you're going to get into, lots of you are going to get into criminal justice. Fatherlessness is a root cause of a lot of juvenile delinquency out there. And so here's some facts that are going to help you figure that out. They're going to help you understand why you're running into some problems out there in the school, in the neighborhood. It's not because there's something wrong with those kids. It's going to help you from making racist kind of assumptions or you falling into stereotypes. This is going to help you understand these kids were raised in terrible contexts and their parents let them down. And here's what's going on. Here's some facts that kind of help you with that. So go find these facts in your chapter and underline them or put a check mark or highlight it, whatever, because these are important facts. Here's the point of the chapter. Right now, this is really interesting, isn't it? Right now, men have much better lives than they've ever had in our history. And yet, they're abandoning their families for some reason. Children today are worse off than they've ever been because their fathers have left them behind. And their fathers have left them behind not because they had to go to war, not because they've died early and died young because of disease or because they were killed off by alien invasions or the bears ate them in the woods. No, their fathers voluntarily just left them behind. They had kids, they produced children, and then they just ran off and left them. And the children had lived worse lives than they would have lived if their fathers had stayed with them. And so nobody can figure out why in the world has this happened. Why in the world have fathers who have much better lives today than ever before, why did they do this to their children? It's a strange phenomenon. And why is it that our country won't talk about this? Why is it that our civilization won't address this problem? Why is it that someone won't get in the face of these fathers and tell them, hey, act like a man and take care of your kids? No one will address that. It's very, very interesting, very strange. So I think as I'm trying to get into a chapter, I think it's easy to take notes like this and your divorce has overtaken death as the reason why kids don't have fathers. It used to be you didn't have a father because your father died early. Well, so here's the facts. I put together some facts, kind of like a chart here. And then here's the explanation over here. The reason that you didn't have a father was because they died early. Now the death rate has dropped faster than the divorce rate. So by 1960, more children were living with both parents than ever before in our history. Can you believe that? But after 1960, and remember reading in the divorce chapter in your Think book, the divorce rate started to climb because we've invented things like no-fault divorce. And so divorce rates began to climb. And so then that fact changed about kids living with both parents. And so the number of marriages ending in divorce dramatically increased after 1960. Look at page 22 about that. So go through your text and start to circle or indicate, here are some facts that he's using to support his ideas about things. So he's not just coming up with his opinions, he's using facts. And so when you're taking courses in a criminal justice major, you don't want to just shoot off your mouth with some opinions. You want to use facts to support your ideas. And so here they are right here. Here's some facts that you can use. Here's some more topics that you ought to look for in the chapter. So why are marriages in decline in our civilization? Well, one reason, and we've studied this already, people are waiting to get married. The reason people are waiting to get married is because women are going into the world of work, not just work, but careers. And so they're waiting to get married until after they've gone to college, until after they've started their career. So people wait later to get married, and they have fewer children because the biological window is smaller. People are not getting married because most people today are cohabiting first before they get married. So right now, more people are cohabiting than they are married. And more people are choosing to live single than ever before. Remember that chart? I've shown it to you twice already, that Census Bureau chart about households. And so look at the difference between 1970 and 2012. How many people are living single, men alone and women alone, and compare. There's been a divorce revolution. That means divorce used to be a sign of failure. Well, not anymore. Now it's been destigmatized, and now it's a symbol of freedom. And now you've escaped from a bad marriage. And so it's a good thing now. It used to be a bad thing. Now it's a good thing. So that's what's revolutionary about divorce. There's an increase in non-marital births. That used to be a bad thing. There were bad words associated with people who were born without a father. Now it's been destigmatized as well. And so if you don't have a father and your parents weren't married when you were born, what's the big deal? It's been destigmatized. That's part of that sexual revolution, part of the fact that your parents were cohabiting. You're not, they used to call, there just were bad names associated with you, but not anymore. That's part of the destigmatization. And so marriage has been revolutionized. So look that up. Figure out what's been revolutionized about marriage, and I wish you would write about that yourself. Your personal feelings and opinions about marriage. How do you feel about marriage? How has it been revolutionized in your own mind about marriage? How do you feel about it? Are you scared about marriage? Are you afraid about the failure of marriage? Do you think, I don't want to get into it because I'm afraid it's going to blow up in my face? What do you should write in your notes your own opinions and ideas about it, and where do you think those came from? And so, what's happened to fatherhood in contemporary culture? You know, I used to show students in my classes all kinds of television shows, and it's almost impossible to find a television program every single decade from the 70s on where there was a positive father figure on television. It's almost impossible. The father figure on television is the idiot. He's the joke. He's the clown. And so we've been raised with very negative and cartoonish father figures on TV. And so he's been demasculinized. He's an idiot. He can't do anything. He's not really a very positive role model anymore in our popular culture. It's really hard to find somebody who's cool as a father. There are examples, but you have to really kind of look for them. So here's some explanations that your the first chapter, kind of provides for you about why his fatherhood and marriage declined in your lifetime. So look these up. Look in your chapter for these. Let me see if I can explain explain to you a little bit. Remember, marriage has been weakened as an institution. Our society has kind of sexualized everything. And so what we're looking for is, we're not trying to get married so that we can have children. Remember, career is more important than marriage and children. Remember that? We've already learned that. What we're trying to do is go have sex all the time. And so marriage is kind of on the side, and marriage is really kind of a cool thing maybe, but marriage is not really the boundaries within which we have sex. Sex is something that you just have casually all over the place all the time. So what we live in is a sexualized society, and sex is a joke. Sex is the topic of jokes. Sex is in every single television show. Everything is about sex. So all that we are covered in sexuality all the time, so that it doesn't really have any meaning anymore. It doesn't really have anything. It's not really special anymore. It's very crude and very it's not even really dirty anymore. It's just very common now. So we live in a sexualized society, and so marriage declines. It doesn't really have its meaning anymore. Our educational system, public school that you go to, it doesn't really promote parenting anymore to people. It doesn't really teach parenting skills or values anymore. It just takes for granted that you're not going to have two parents. And so it doesn't teach fatherhood. It doesn't teach motherhood to people anymore. It used to do that. There used to be classes that you could take. Not anymore. We really tend to have a materialistic economy and values. You can see that by that survey that we've already talked about, where having your career is more important to you than investing your life in people like kids and your spouse. Having a career and finding happiness in materialistic gain is more important to people today. That it tends to indicate that economic values are more important to us. Individualistic values and consumption, individualistic happiness. My marriage isn't making me happy anymore, so I'm going to jettison everybody and go find happiness somewhere else. Maybe my secretary, maybe casual sex. I don't know. Maybe that will make me happy. But me and internal happiness is what's important to me. Remember when we talked about that romantic love syndrome earlier in the course? It's really hard to tell if you're going to ever find that romantic love, because it's an internal subjective feeling rather than an objective cultural standard that we find in making somebody else happy and creating a family and creating a marriage and building a home. That's what we used to decide as an indicator of happiness. Not anymore. We tend to de-emphasize childhood. Kids have to grow up so much faster now. We give everybody a cell phone and expose them to all kinds of adult experiences way too early. The male gender role tends to leave out fatherhood. We don't talk about fatherhood enough. And so the male gender role, I don't know. I don't know how do males do gender today? What is it that's uniquely male? His ancestors used to chop down trees and fight off the bears and do all kinds of things that were uniquely masculine. I don't know what males do today that's uniquely masculine. Do they grow a beard and maybe learn to park their car backwards? I don't know what males do today that's uniquely masculine. The males go to work just like the females do, and they work in a little cubicle and type on a keyboard just like females do. So it's really hard for males to find a way to do gender, to be masculine. Fatherhood was a way to do that, but we've so de-emphasized fatherhood that it's really difficult for males to figure out how do I do it? How do I do masculinity today? It's been so de-emphasized. And so we end up replacing that unique idea of fatherhood. I drew a little picture here because it's all connected. The economy, our culture, and our government. Um, by government, I mean the way we regulate our society, the rules and the law that we have around us. It's all interconnected with each other, and how we have regulated families, how we have our culture, and how we have de-emphasized fatherhood, and the economy, and how we have pushed everybody toward their career rather than their family. It's all interconnected with each other. This is part of the explanation for why fatherhood and marriage has declined so much in our lifetime, and why it doesn't mean what it used to mean. And what's happening is it's not just a choice that I make and a choice that you make. It's a choice that people are making that's harming children. And so we're producing generations of children who are living lives that are second best. They're living lives that are in many ways harmed. They've been harmed in the process of growing up. They haven't grown up as fulfilled as they would have been if they'd had both parents and if they had a father, according to this data that Pope Noah is showing us in this book. So I urge you to dig around in the chapter and see what you can figure out, see what kind of data you can find, and start thinking about fatherhood a little bit. I don't think you've been exposed to this before, and I just want you to have it and get into it and see what you think about it and start talking to people about it. If you've got some questions, if something seems confusing, again, as I've said over and over, send me an email and throw some of these ideas out in the discussion this week, and let's see if we can have a discussion or debate about it. Let me know. Send me an email if you've got a question.